Imagine opening a basement closet in a quiet suburban home and discovering a false wall hiding 22 illegal firearms.
And for officers working in Suffolk County, New York, that exact scenario actually played out in real life.
It really did. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here. We are looking at a huge stack of local news reports, police statements, and court summaries from early March 2026. And I have to say, the details are just remarkable.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to explore 3 separate major weapon seizures. And these all took place almost simultaneously in the Long Island suburbs of Lindenhurst and Melville.
Right, right. We're going to examine the staggering statistics of what authorities uncovered inside these homes.
And we'll also look at the mechanism that triggered these discoveries, which is fascinating.
Yeah, routine probation checks. That's what led to these massive operations.
Unpacking these 3 cases really gives you a clear view into how administrative processes serve as this vital, completely hidden layer of community safety.
It does. It really pulls back the curtain.
So let's just jump right in. Let's start with the first major discovery on Friday, March 6.
Okay, set the scene for us.
This takes us to 49 Kane Street in Lindenhurst. Suffolk County Probation officers arrived at the home of 54-year-old Todd Pinnell around 7:10 p.m.
And the timing and the nature of that visit, it's really important to highlight this was not a tactical raid.
Right, no SWAT teams.
Exactly, no SWAT team breaking down the door.
Yeah.
Pinnell was serving a probation sentence following a prior conviction.
Right.
And when an individual is on probation, they agree to certain conditions. One of those standard conditions is submitting to random searches by probation officers.
So the officers just knocked on his door that Friday evening simply to verify he was following the rules.
Just a standard check.
I mean, I'm trying to picture the scene here. It's early Friday evening in a regular suburban neighborhood.
People are probably finishing dinner.
Right, or watching television. And inside this specific house, probation officers are conducting what really should be a standard walkthrough.
But it didn't stay routine for long.
No, it didn't. The search escalated from a routine check into a major discovery when officers checked a basement closet.
Yeah, the officers noticed something structurally unusual inside that closet.
Like the dimensions were off.
Exactly. They discovered a false wall built specifically for concealment. And when investigators dismantled or, bypassed that false wall, they found a hidden armory.
The statistics from this single basement are just heavy. Authorities seized exactly 22 firearms from behind that drywall.
Just an unbelievable amount to find in a suburban closet. And breaking down the inventory really shows the scope of the operation.
What exactly did they find?
Police recovered 8 assault rifles, 10 semi-automatic handguns, and 4 revolvers.
Wow.
Yeah. Investigators also seized multiple high-capacity magazines.
Building a false wall in a suburban basement, that requires serious premeditation.
It's not an accident.
No. This goes far beyond someone just, forgetting they have an old hunting rifle in the attic.
Right.
Constructing a hidden compartment shows an active, deliberate effort to evade the law, especially when you know your probation terms subject you to random searches.
Completely. And the legal consequences definitely reflect that level of premeditation, not to mention the sheer volume of the weapons.
What kind of charges is he looking at?
Police charged Pinnell with 47 separate felony counts.
47.
Yeah, the way the law is structured, the charges compound based on the individual's history and the number of weapons involved. Because Pinnell had a prior conviction, authorities charged him with 22 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree.
So those charges cover each individual firearm.
Exactly, one for each gun. Furthermore, the law automatically escalates the severity of the charges when a suspect possesses a massive stockpile.
Makes sense.
So Pinnell faces a specific charge for first-degree criminal possession of a weapon simply because the total number of firearms exceeded 10.
So following the discovery of the false wall, officers transported Pinnell to the 1st Precinct, right?
Yep, where they held him overnight.
And the court quickly scheduled his arraignment for the very next day, Saturday, March 7th, at the courthouse in Central Islip.
The speed of that process is incredible. It really shows how quickly a standard administrative check shifts into high gear.
It really does. But here's the crazy part. While authorities processed Pinnell and cataloged all those assault rifles and handguns from Kane Street, a parallel situation was unfolding in the exact same town.
Same night, same town.
Yep. While one man in Lindenhurst faced the fallout of a concealed arsenal, another sweep targeted a 60-year-old Lindenhurst man named Albert Tusa.
And Tusa's case shares the exact same catalyst as the Pinnell case. Officers discovered his stockpile during a standard probation check.
Right.
However, the circumstances surrounding his probation and the types of weapons involved present a very different profile.
Let's dig into that. The court documents detail exactly why Tusa was under supervision. Last year, he violated an order of protection involving a former girlfriend.
Now, his defense attorney, Anthony Scheller, notes that Tusa merely sent an email to the woman.
Just an email.
Right. And that single digital communication triggered the contempt charges. But the crucial factor here is the consequence of those contempt charges.
Which was the probation.
Exactly. The resulting probation term strictly prohibited Tusa from owning or possessing any firearms.
But when officers swept Tusa's property, they pulled out a massive haul. Police seized more than 40 weapons in total.
Over 40?
Yeah, and the inventory from Tusa's home looks like, it looks like a cross between a historical armory and a street fighting cache.
That's a good way to put it.
Officers seized 17 long guns and 8 handguns. Then they moved on to a massive collection of melee weapons.
The melee weapons really stand out here.
They do. Investigators confiscated 16 switchblades, brass knuckles, an expandable baton, and 2 high-capacity magazines.
Seeing 40 weapons laid out on an evidence table after a routine probation sweep, that is a jarring image.
Truly. And based on that physical evidence, prosecutors charged Tusa with more than 50 felony weapon offenses. He entered a plea of not guilty, and the judge ordered him held on $150,000 cash bail.
But there is a very interesting defense here. We have to look at the counter-narrative regarding how those weapons actually ended up in the house.
Right, let's look at what his lawyer's saying.
Attorney Anthony Scheller states that Tusa did not actively purchase or assemble this arsenal himself.
Okay.
Scheller claims the entire lot forms an inherited collection previously owned by Tusa's deceased father.
So according to the defense, when the father passed away and the family sold his estate, the guns and knives simply migrated to Tusa's residence.
That's the claim. Scheller also raises a highly technical legal question about the actual threat level of the collection. He points out that many of those 17 long guns might just be antique items.
Meaning they might not even fire.
Exactly. The defense team plans to investigate whether these older inherited rifles are even operable. Under the law, the operability of a firearm can significantly impact the severity of the possession charges.
This scenario creates a fascinating tension between strict liability and passive circumstance.
It really does.
Because the terms of probation draw a very hard line.
Right.
Right, you cannot possess weapons, period.
Right.
But the defense argues that the defendant simply stored his late father's belongings. We are just presenting the facts as they appear in the court records and police statements. The court system will eventually have to weigh the validity of that inherited collection defense against the strict terms of the probation.
The courts will definitely have to determine how the concept of constructive possession applies when an heir inherits contraband they are legally forbidden to hold.
It's a tricky legal area.
It is. Now, both of those Lindenhurst cases center on physical weapons, right? Antique rifles in one home, standard handguns hidden behind drywall in another.
Yeah.
But the police activity on that Friday extended beyond Lindenhurst, and it uncovered a fundamentally different kind of threat.
Let's shift our focus north to the suburb of Melville. On that same Friday evening, around 6:30 p.m., officers arrived at 21 Chateau Drive and searched the home of 41-year-old Robert Ellick.
And the discoveries at the Chateau Drive residence introduce a highly modern element to this whole weekend of police sweeps.
It's a totally different ballgame.
Investigators did find standard rifles in Ellick's home, but the rest of the contraband highlights a technological shift in illegal weapon possession.
Police actually seized body armor from the residence.
Which is concerning on its own.
Right. But alongside the body armor, investigators discovered plastic molds specifically designed for manufacturing ghost guns.
And the presence of those plastic molds completely changes the nature of the investigation. We are looking at a localized, do-it-yourself manufacturing operation.
For those who might not know, how do ghost guns change things?
Well, ghost guns bypass the traditional commercial market entirely. Because they are fabricated privately using molds or 3D printing technology, these weapons lack commercial serial numbers.
So this means they completely bypass background checks.
Exactly.
And they remain completely untraceable by traditional law enforcement databases.
That's the real danger. The combination of items found in Melville paints a very specific, very tactical picture. You have a setup designed to build off-the-grid weapons paired with the possession of body armor.
Authorities charged Alick with several counts of criminal possession of a weapon based on those findings.
They did.
They also charged him with the unlawful purchase of body armor, which carries its own specific legal penalties in New York.
Yep.
And, similar to the timeline for Todd Pinnell, the court scheduled Alick's arraignment for Saturday in Central Islip.
You know, looking at these three cases side by side gives you such a unique perspective on suburban law enforcement. We have three massive seizures unfolding over a single Friday evening in quiet residential neighborhoods.
Why do you think this matters so much for the average listener?
Because these events pull back the curtain on how communities actually monitor and manage local threats. Often, you associate public safety with patrol cars, emergency dispatch calls, or long-term undercover stings.
Sure, the flashy stuff.
Exactly. But these cases demonstrate that routine administrative probation checks function as a highly effective hidden layer of security.
I mean, a probation officer literally just knocking on a door to ensure someone is following the rules of their release resulted in dozens of illegal firearms and melee weapons being pulled out of residential basements and closets.
It's incredible. Furthermore, when you trace the types of items seized across Lindenhurst and Melville, you see a really clear evolution of the dangers law enforcement encounters.
You can walk through that evolution step by step. First, you encounter the most passive form of the threat with the Tusa case.
Right, the inherited item.
Yeah, an older man holds on to an inherited cache of switchblades and old long guns. The weapons might be decades old, perhaps sitting completely untouched in boxes since his father passed away.
Then, moving to the Pinnell case, you encounter an active, deliberate concealment strategy.
Right.
A middle-aged man purposefully constructs a physical false wall inside a closet. He actively hides a modern cache of assault rifles and semi-automatic handguns, fully aware he needs to bypass the visual inspections of his probation officers.
And then finally, the Ellich case in Melville represents the absolute cutting edge of the problem.
The technological shift.
Yes, a suspect bypasses the traditional purchase and concealment of weapons entirely. He acquires plastic molds to manufacture untraceable ghost guns from scratch, complementing that manufacturing capability with body armor.
You are looking at a clear timeline of evasion techniques. The threat evolves from inheriting and storing undocumented old weapons to building physical architecture to hide purchase weapons.
And finally, to manufacturing new weapons that simply do not exist on any official record.
It completely changes how you view the concept of contraband. The methods of acquiring and hiding these items just keep advancing, and that requires law enforcement to constantly adapt their search protocols.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider as we wrap up this analysis.
We have seen the massive leap from physical concealment to digital age manufacturing, all within a 10-mile radius.
So, if local law enforcement is currently relying on routine physical probation checks to uncover guns hidden behind literal false walls, how will they adapt their methods next?
It's the big question.
How will authorities successfully uncover weapons that do not just hide in a dark basement closet, but hide completely off the grid, without serial numbers, born from plastic molds and downloaded files?
The answer to that question will likely define the next decade of community safety and investigative tactics.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this exploration of the Suffolk County records leaves you with a better understanding of the mechanics of local law enforcement and the evolving nature of illegal firearms. Keep questioning the systems around you and stay curious.